Ken Joslin is an American entrepreneur, author, motivational speaker, and real estate professional.
Divorced a year ago. Been out of the house for 3 years. That's the hardest thing I've ever done.
He is the owner of the Ken Joslin Group, a company that specializes in selling real estate and mortgages. Joslin has sold hundreds of millions of dollars worth of property and mentored hundreds of people. Ken has also written several books, including As the Leader Grows, How to Crush Limited Beliefs, Creating Winning Strategies, and Champion, A Culture of Leadership.
When you look at the people that are in your life, are they guys, we're speaking predominantly to men, are the men in your life guys you want in your life if you're going through a crisis? And if they're not, maybe you need to reevaluate your circle and find some new people to do life with.
He is also the host of the As the Leader Grows podcast, where he teaches leaders to grow by teaching them how to reach their fullest potential.
Everybody listening to this podcast, if you'll take that one thing that I just said and apply that to your relationships, it'll be a game changer for you.
He has been featured on the cover of Newswire magazine and other major publications.
And I'm telling you, dude, I lost it. Kevin, I had no idea I had trauma.
Ken, my man, absolutely delighted to finally have you on this podcast. We've been trying to make this happen for quite some time now, and I came across your content several months ago now, and I thought definitely need to get this guy on my podcast. I know you're an extremely successful businessman, but with any success, I know there is a lot of suffering, a lot of sacrifice behind that story, at the beginning of that story. And that's where I'd like to go with this conversation. And really, the first question I want to ask you is, tell me about a time where you were suffering or where you were extremely challenged in the past. And at the time you thought, fuck, this is the end. I've lost everything. There's no coming back from this. And as you sit there now and you reflect back in it, this will be a good answer. I can already tell.
How many of those do you want me to give you? Do you want me to give you like when that happened last week or the week before that or last month? I mean, how many of those stories do you want me to give you, Gavin?
Give me the worst one possible. Yeah, that's the one. That's the one we all want, man. So yeah. And as I said, when you reflect back on that situation or that circumstance in your life, as you sit there right now, you think, you know what? If that didn't happen, then I wouldn't be sitting here today. I wouldn't have the success and happiness that I have today. Yeah. So what was that in your life, that moment or that period?
Yeah. Number one, first off, man, honored to be here with you, and man, appreciate your time and your platform. It's huge for me. I never take that for granted. I heard Grant Cardone say something. For those of you guys that know Uncle G, he's a friend and a mentor. I was just in Vegas at GrowthCon with him last week. I heard him say something a couple of years ago at a mastermind. His first mastermind he did was in June 2020. So COVID's like, full bore. Here we are. I think there were 33 of us at Grant's office, and somebody asked him a question about, how do you know when you're close to success? Like, how do you know when you're just about to break through? And Grant said, it's just on the other side of feeling like you're about to lose everything. And I was like, I didn't make a lot of sense 2 years ago, but let's circle back 14 months ago to December and January of 2021, January of 2022. I was about to pull off my first Create conference in Atlanta. It was my first big conference, several hundred people, John Maxwell, Jesse Itzler, Anthony Trucks, just a ton of great friends, Randy Garn, Jen Gottlieb, ton of amazing friends of mine. And I'm getting ready to pull this event off. Dude, it's just me. Like, I don't have investors. I don't have somebody funding. It's me. And I'll never forget, we were probably a month or so out, and I thought, dude, I'm going to lose it all. Like, I'm almost out of money. And I've got, John Maxwell, I've known John for 20 years, but he doesn't get breaks when he comes to speak. He's $85,000 to come speak for 90 minutes. I mean, so, and I've got all of these moving parts and finances and a budget of about $250 to $300K to pull this event off. And I'm doing all this stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't know that I'm going to be able to pull this off. And so Friday morning, John, we had our Thursday night kind of a dinner and a dual fundraiser for a couple friends of mine, David Pollack from ESPN's College Game Day, Hugh Jackson, former NFL head coach for the Raiders and the Browns, now the head coach for Grambling. We had a fundraiser for both of their nonprofits, and John spoke at that. The next morning, we opened the conference up. John speaks, and I have to go behind John. I don't know if you've ever had to speak behind a guy like John Maxwell, but he sucks all the energy out of the room. And I've done it. I've spoke behind John 3 times now. The first big stage I was ever on 20 plus years ago, almost 9,000 people I had to speak behind John. And then last year at my conference. And so I got up. I told John, it's funny. I said, dude, I'm never speaking behind you again because you suck all the air out of the room. Dude, he's, it's John Maxwell, for goodness sake. And I get up. And after John, and these people are expecting this big, eloquent keynote. And here's this guy who spent half of the last 25 years in full-time ministry. In the South, we call that, I just had that preach on me. And I don't know how to do it, Gavin, any other way, but then just to be 100% transparent. You watch my Instagram stories, people see my videos. I get people to go, dude, I can't believe you said that. I can't believe you shared. I can't believe you were that transparent and vulnerable to people. And I'm like, listen, I can't help anybody unless they really know what it took to get where I got. And I get up last year in January and I start sharing with people. You see the band, you see the LED walls, you see the hundreds, you see all this stuff. But what you didn't see was me 3 weeks ago waking up at 2 a.m. wondering if I had what it took to pull this thing off. What you didn't see was all the nights I woke up in the middle of the night looking at my checking account going, bro, I don't know if you got it, bro. I don't know that you can pull this off. I'll never forget the week or 2 weeks before our conference, I had $17,000 left in my bank. That's it. That was it. That wouldn't even make payroll for the month. That was all I had. I had spent everything, multiple 6 figures. And I'm like, okay, God, I know you told me to do this, but man, if this doesn't come through, I guess I can go back to selling real estate. I guess I can go back to being a mortgage broker. And, we did the weekend. It was a phenomenal weekend. Tons of lives changed, visions, dreams. I mean, really reinforced. And we did close to $260,000 in revenue that weekend. And that was the catapult. And then fast forward to a month ago, actually it was today, a month ago, we started my Create conference. So fast forward 5-6 weeks ago, same thing, but this one was bigger and better. So what did it do? It cost me even more money to put it on. Same thing. I didn't get down to 17K, but I wasn't far from it. And what did we do? We did $500,000 in revenue last month, which put us in position to where, now I can exhale and I can sleep at nighttime and I'm not wicked. I was just on the phone with Vic Keller, who's one of my dear friends. And he had 11 companies successfully acquired by Berkshire Hathaway in 2016 or 17 for an undisclosed amount that I will just tell you was around $8 billion. He's a billionaire. He's a dear friend. And we literally was on the phone we were on the Zoom call for an hour and 57 minutes talking about our upcoming Create conference and the things that Vic and I are going to do together. And I told him, I said, dude, this is what I literally showed him a QuickBooks shot of it. Dude, here's what we made last month. And he was so happy for me, dude. And he was like, man, I bet you sleep better. I said, you don't even know. And it's not even been a thing, Gavin, of, okay, I've got this money in the bank. Now, can I go buy a watch or go buy another car? Now I'm like, oh, now I can hire this position and I can get this executive assistant / event coordinator that I've been wanting to get. I can go out and invest right back into my company. But I go back to that quote, man, from Grant. Mm-hmm. If, you'll know you're close to success and arriving the moment you feel like you're about to lose it all. And people ask me this question. They say, how do you get so close to Grant? How does he pull you in on Instagram lives? And I've spoken for him 2 or 3 times at 10X. How do you get to do that? And for Grant, I just say, man, because I continuously go all in. I'm all in all the time. All the time I'm going all in. We just made $500,000 last month. What am I doing? I'm going all in. I just hired a search firm for my VP of operations. I've got 2 or 3 people that I'm interviewing for my executive assistant / event coordinator. I mean, I just, okay, how can I reinvest now? We're not going to do 1 Create conference this year. We're going to do 2. That was the call I had with Vic. We're going to do 1 in Dallas. I mean, it's insane. It just goes up to the next level. That's all it does. The risk never goes away. And I think that's really how I got connected with Grant. And Grant gave me that access that he did, was because he loved the fact that I continuously go all in.
Mm-hmm. What's the cost of that for you on a personal aspect? I know there's a lot of money to be made, but what's the cost there?
Yeah. For me, Gavin, it's different, I think. I spent a lot of time in full-time vocational ministry, doing ministry and planting and pastoring churches. You don't do that to get wealthy. There's a few people that do, but you don't do it. You don't do what I did, making $60K a year. I mean, when I was a mortgage broker 20 years ago, I was making $60K a month. I think that, so in that, I talk a lot in my book about return on mission versus return on investment. I talk a lot about significance is greater than success. So for me, it's the finances don't do anything for me other than let me sleep a little better, a little bit more peace. And then they let me invest into what we're doing so I can scale it and have a greater impact on more people. So I think that's the thing is I talked on my podcast this morning about, and this has been on my heart big time. And it came out of two conversations I had in the past week. One was with Tom Brady. Actually, Grant had the conversation. Tom was on stage at GrowthCon. He was the last speaker. And Grant asked him, he said, what's the secret behind 7 Super Bowls? What's the secret behind you being the greatest football player, quarterback of all time? Hands down, no questions asked. He goes, was it just your insatiable desire to win? And Tom goes, not at all. He goes, not at all. And I was shocked. Grant was shocked. The whole room was like, what? I thought I was going to hear like Michael Jordan. Dude, I mean, he's like, MJ or Kobe were assassins. Like they'd slit their grandmama's throat to win a championship. Tom was different. He said, no, man, there's two motivations I had. Number one, I didn't want to let down the people that I loved. I didn't want to let down my family or my teammates or my coaches. That was the number one driving force for me. Number two, he said, man, it's fun to celebrate a championship when you have teammates. He goes, there's nothing like it. He said, so I laid it all on the line. And if we won, great. If we didn't win, would it suck? Of course it would. But I knew I gave it everything I had. And the second was my friend Sean, who was on my podcast last week. He's the only man in the history of the world to summit the 7 highest peaks on all 7 continents, including Everest, ski to the North Pole, ski to the South Pole, and finish the triathlon Ironman event in Hawaii. He's the only person that's ever done it. Nobody's ever done it. And I asked him a question. It blew me, because I'm just like, dude, you summited Mount Everest. Like, that's the most insane thing ever. I said, dude, what was it like when you got to the summit? Like, explain that to me. He said, Ken, I'm not going to lie, it was phenomenal. It was the most amazing scene you could ever imagine. Like, God couldn't have painted a more beautiful picture than that. He said, but to be honest with you, I already knew it was never about the summit. It was about the journey. And I was like, wow. I talk about it a lot, but I've never been to Everest. And so for me, on my podcast this morning, I just talked about it. I said, we've hit this unbelievable level, I guess, if you want to say. I get to spend time with some world-class entrepreneurs, some people that are causing major impact around the world. They're like my best friends. Like, I just got 2 hours, hour and 57-minute Zoom call with Vic. These guys are my closest friends. And I've learned that it's not about the destination. It really is about the journey, the people that I get to surround myself with, and the man I become on the journey.
How far are you from that peak at the moment? Have you reached the peak? Are you coming back down? Are you looking for the next mountain?
I'm not even close, man. For me, it's not even, like peak to peak. It's okay, God, because I'm a person of faith. I'm like, okay, God, I know you've called me. I know the dream you've put in my heart. I know the dream you put in my heart. I know what you've called me to do and the impact you called me to make. So for me, it's always about return on mission, not return on investment. How can I go make greater impact? I literally this morning, I shared on my Instagram page, at Ken Joslin. I shared on my Instagram page today a clip from my Create conference where I was talking about when you're in community, when you find healthy community, like my GSD community, accountability should feel like encouragement. Like it literally should like breathe wind in your sails. The word encourage means to add courage to. And I shared on that story, excuse me, this morning about a friend who was there who texted me and another friend 2 days before my conference. And she said, "Hey, listen, I can't make it. Finances are tough. I've had all these things happen. I'm just not going to be able to make it." And as soon as she texted me, I thought, man, she's got to be in the room. She cannot miss this. I texted her. I said, "Call me." It's like 10 o'clock at night. I'm literally laying in my bed. She calls me. And I said, "Have you already paid for your plane ticket?" She said, "Yeah." I said, "What about your hotel?" She goes, "Nope." I said, "Okay, here's what I'm going to do. And you already bought your ticket and paid for your ticket to my conference?" "Yes." "Okay, I'm going to Venmo you the money you paid me for the ticket to my conference. I'm going to send it back to you. So you've got some money in the bank and you've already paid for your flight. Here, when you get here, I'm going to put you up at the Airbnb or a hotel room with one people on my team. So it doesn't cost you anything either. And I'll cover all your expenses while you're here." And she literally just reposted it just a minute ago. Like that's impact. Like that's return on mission. Because I know that 2.5 days she spent here with those several hundred people at my conference and the speakers and friends that she has there, I knew it would be a shot in the arm that she needed. I knew it would breathe wind in her sails. I knew it would be encouragement. The word encouragement, Gavin, means to add courage to. So I tell people all the time, dude, you don't have courage? Borrow some of mine. You don't have belief in what God's put in your heart? You borrow some of mine. Because I have that belief for you. I was on a huge webinar yesterday with my friend Dedora Evans, huge, thousands of people. And they brought on Greg Reed right behind me. And Greg's co-author of 3 Feet from Goal with Sharon Lecter, who's a co-author of Rich Dad Poor Dad. Sharon's a dear friend and Greg's a dear friend. And she surprised me and they brought Greg on. And as soon as I saw him, I thought, oh God, I'm going to ugly cry. And I did. And I just started talking about it because I started this in about 3 weeks, 2 weeks will be 3 years ago. I started this. So I started GSD, like literally right when COVID hit, I started it. And I'll never forget, I had Greg on an Instagram Live and he invited me. He goes, "Dude, listen, if you're ever in Southern California, call me. I'd love for you to have you over at the house. I'll give you 90 minutes. We can talk about whatever you want to talk." And I got on this yesterday and I saw Greg and I'm like, Greg's one of the guys, when I get ready to do my conference, I shoot him a text. I said, "Dude, listen, every time I see you on social media or every time I hear your name, I think this guy gave me time in his living room. I shared all this vision. I had nothing, nothing had happened yet. I hadn't even started anything yet. I said, but yet here I am in your living room for 90 minutes. I'll never forget. I took my planner out and I got ready to write notes. And you said, you don't need that. This is just a conversation between two friends." And I said, "Greg Reed, I wouldn't." And I'm ugly crying, bro. I'm on this webinar with thousands of people and I'm like ugly crying on this thing. And I'm like, dude, I would not be here if it weren't for you and your belief in me that you saw 3 years ago when all I had was a dream. So, man, when it comes to encouraging people and letting people borrow your passion, your belief, your desire until they make it and they get enough momentum to create that on their own, dude, that's the freaking greatest feeling in the world, man.
Mm-hmm. Was there another driver there for you to create all this, even before 3 years ago, to do what you're doing today? I believe that pain can be a massive driver for a lot of people. So was there a pain or an insecurity there that?
Yeah. One of my 5 affirmations is I am whole. I choose to use past pain to help others find healing. I've been sharing a lot about my journey over the past year, a lot on social media. I did it at my conference. My therapist, Lauren, is a somatic therapist and she's a dating and relationship expert. Lauren, actually, I had her speak on Friday. She was the last speaker on Friday. And then I came up, put a couple chairs up and I just shared my story because nobody had really heard my story. And divorced a year ago, been out of the house for 3 years. That's the hardest thing I've ever done. I've got 4 daughters, 27, 23, 19, and 14 that I love dearly. A very difficult season in my life. And a year ago, I walk into my therapist here locally, Maxine, and she says to me, she goes, "Ken, tell me your story." And I said, "Born in Detroit, raised in Pontiac. Parents got divorced when I was 8. I said, Mom moved us to Georgia when I was in the 2nd grade. From my 6th grade year to my senior year of high school, I moved back and forth to my dad 6 different times. I went to 12 schools. I went to 6 different high schools. I can't even tell you how many homes I lived in. It was a lot." And she's writing notes in her book, like every good therapist does. And she looks up at me and she goes, "Why in the world would you want to move so many times?" Then I said, "Maxine, I didn't have a choice." I said, "If I ever got in trouble, my mom would tell me to go pack a bag. Then I had 24 to 48 hours, and I was on a bus, a plane, or my dad was in a car on the way to come pick me up from Michigan." I've had 2 aha moments in my life. One was when I gave my life to Christ in August of 1993 when I got saved. And the other was the next statement she asked me. She was writing in her notebook and she looked up and she said, "Well, Ken, how do you think that's had an effect on your relationship with the women in your life who are supposed to love and protect you?" And I'm telling you, dude, I lost it. And she just looked at me and I'm sobbing on the couch in my therapist's office. And I was sobbing because I went back 3 weeks before that to a relationship with a woman that I love very dearly in Northern California that I dated for about a year and a half, that I love more than probably any woman that I've ever loved in my life. And 3 weeks before that, she picked me up at the airport in San Francisco, and we didn't even make it out of the city limits. We had an argument. She said something. I got triggered. I didn't know I had trauma. I had no idea what that even looked like then. She said something, triggered me. I made her pull the car over. I got my suitcase and I left. So here was a 53-year-old man living out the trauma of a 13-year-old boy, except this time, instead of the woman that it was in my life telling me I had to leave, I was going to leave before the woman told me to leave. And when she said that to me a year ago, Gavin, I looked back at my entire adult life and all my relationships, and it's exactly what I did every time I felt threatened, where I felt like the woman was going to ask me to leave. I left before she asked me to. And so, dude, I've been on this journey for a year, 11 months. It'll be in 2 weeks. It'll be a year, 11 and a half months journey of really finding who I am and how do I take this trauma. Again, my affirmation, I am whole. I choose to use past pain to help others find healing. Dude, I get DMs every day. I don't know, 30,000 followers on Instagram. I get DMs every day. Dude, I can't believe you're sharing this. I can't believe you're this transparent. I can't believe you're like an open book. I'm telling you, man, when we shared at my Create conference, Lauren shared on polarity. She shared on trauma, polarity between the masculine and the feminine. And I got up and shared what I just shared with you, and really got down deep into it. There was hundreds of people, not a dry eye in the place. Not mine, not Lauren's, not anybody else's. Because I knew that, listen, in order for other men and women to find healing from, dude, I was 53 years old. Gavin, I had no idea I had trauma. I literally used, man, I went to 12 schools in 12 years, went to 6 different high schools. Then I went in the military, I went in the Air Force after that. You can drop me in any situation and, dude, I can make friends. You can put me into any place on the planet and I can walk into it and I can make friends. So I literally wore that as a badge of honor. And I'll never forget when I said that to Maxine that day. She said, "Ken, you wore that as a badge of honor to cover up the trauma that was in your life." Whew. You want to talk about it was outside of giving my life to Christ, the biggest aha moment in my life. And so I spent a year, man. I spent a year discovering okay, why is that there? How do I properly deal with this trauma? Lauren, I said she's a somatic therapist. How do I go from, and so my part in my talk with us sitting on stage together was this, and this is what I'm passionate about right now. Like right now, I mean, I coach entrepreneurs. That's what I do. I run the largest entrepreneur conference in the Southeast. I help business leaders build confidence, gain clarity, and create community. I guess this is going to be confidence and clarity. It probably confidence and clarity probably falls under that. But what I talked about that day was, how do I know if I have trauma? If you can't set boundaries and follow them and keep them, or you have problems when people encroach the boundaries that you verbally shared, and you continually let them do that, that's a sign of unresolved trauma. If you respond or you react versus responding, and I'll say that when somebody says something to you, you go 0 to 100 just like that, that's a sign of unresolved and undealt with trauma. And that was my life. That was my life. And so I've learned through 3 different therapists, 3 very good therapists, I've learned how to respond versus react. I've learned in relationships with partners and with, which I haven't really had a long one since I was with, the girl that I was with for 1.5 years. I haven't really had a long one. I've learned how to be there's a book called The Masculine Relationship by G.S. Youngblood. Phenomenal. I've read it 3 times or listened to it on Audible. And one of the things I learned in there that GS talks about is, as a masculine, I'm to hold space. God made women emotional. Every guy listening to this, if you've ever been in a relationship, fucking women can go from 0 to 100 in about a half a second. It don't take them long to get emotional. And it doesn't even have to be anything you did to them. It can be her girlfriend didn't say something right, or the kids didn't do something, or when she said, hey, how does my ass look in these jeans? And you didn't respond immediately with, baby, you're so damn sexy, I can't even stand it. Like, they'll go 0 to 100 quick. And so what happened was, in that relationship, when she would get triggered and come and raise her emotional state would get elevated, me having trauma and not knowing it, what would I do as a man? I would try to explain or defend my position. And then when she didn't receive what I was saying, then what would I do? She's here. She's already elevated. Baseline. She's elevated. I get elevated. Then she gets elevated. And then I get elevated. Next thing you know, we got a freaking train wreck. And that's what our relationship looked like. The highs were the most amazing times of my life, and the lows were the worst times of my life. When all I had to do was understand my trauma, deal with my trauma to an extent, Gavin, where I can say, when she gets elevated, I stand firm in my masculine, understanding that she's not attacking me. She's not abandoning me. So all the trauma and the feelings and the emotions that come with what I went through as a kid would just fly all over me. And I couldn't control. And she'd get elevated, I'd get elevated. So when I realized this over the past 3 months, and I really learned how to be grounded and present, I sent her an email. I said, hey, I am really, really sorry. Like, I didn't have the capacity to hold space for you. Because when the feminine gets elevated and you hold space as a masculine, the feminine wants 3 things. They want to know it's safe. They want to know it's safe. They want to know they're seen, and they want to know they're heard. If you can create an environment as a man where when your woman gets elevated, hey, babe, I hear you. And you're calm. You're present. Because again, I've made this mistake for 30 years. You're not listening to do what? Solve a problem. You're listening because you love your partner. Babe, I hear you. Just let her be emotional. You're holding firm in your masculinity, in your space, which is how God created you and what God created you to do. And then when she realizes she's safe, guess what she does? Babe, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to come at you like that. It really didn't have anything to do with you. Something happened at the office today. Something one of the kids did today. My mom and my dad are having problems. It's got nothing to do with you. And this is what this kind of revelation aha moment came to me 2 weeks ago on my Wednesday night call. What I needed from my ex and what I needed from my ex-wife and what I needed from her in this relationship was, when she made a mistake, I just needed her to own the mistake. Just own it. But what happened was, Gavin, when they get elevated and we get elevated, the moment we get elevated, the very first time in that conversation, we take away our partner's opportunity to give us the one thing that we want or the one thing that we need, which is, man, babe, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to come at you like that. Hey, you know what, babe? It's okay. I love you very much. How can I help you in that situation? Or do you just need me to listen and just be here and hold space for you? I couldn't do that. Dude, you want to talk about everybody listening to this podcast. If you'll take that one thing, that I just said and apply that to your relationships, it'll be a game changer for you.
Oh, how I can relate. And I think a lot of men listening to this can relate to, and or abandonment wounds from our childhood. I think is massive in terms of how they play out in our adult relationships. I've gone through that process too of reading books and understanding this. And The Way of the Superior Man was the game changer for me.
Most definitely. Yes,
that was a brilliant book. Have you forgiven yourself for what happened in the past?
Yeah, I've never had a problem. Being a person of faith, understanding what Jesus did for me. I've never had a problem with forgiveness, forgiving myself or forgiving other people. It's never been an issue for me because I understand what God forgave me of. And when you understand that, I don't care if you're a person of faith or not, but when you understand and you look at it, if you believe that Jesus died on the cross, that he took my punishment for me, so I didn't have to take it in the future, how can I not forgive somebody else? I've been forgiven the ultimate debt. I have to. And that's one thing that scripture is very, very clear on. I have to forgive. So forgiveness for me, dude, it really is easy. It's easy. It's never been an issue with forgiving myself or anybody else. All somebody has to do is say, Ken, I'm really sorry. Good, done. We're good. Let's move forward. I forgive you. Let's move forward. So no, I haven't really had a problem with that.
What about when you got divorced and this was a period where you hadn't yet processed the trauma from the past, the fear of being abandoned.
Yeah.
And you're ultimately being somewhat abandoned by your wife and your children at the time. How did that play out in your life at that time?
Hard, man. It was hard. But it was when my divorce was final. I mean, I've been going to therapy. I pastored for a long time, so I've been in therapy forever. I mean, it's not like you, and I tell people all the time, like therapy isn't just for people who have issues. Therapy is like preventive maintenance. Like you don't get your oil changed in my Range Rover sitting outside. I don't get my oil changed when my Range Rover engine locks up. I get the oil changed every 3,000 to 5,000 miles because that's what I'm supposed to do. Like it's preventive maintenance. You need somebody with a 10,000 foot view of your life at all times. You need somebody that you can communicate with and they can give you a good assessment. And I have great men, great friends in my corner, but you need a professional to be able to look and go, hey, are you seeing this here? You need that, especially if you're in a relationship, because relationships are hard. I just reposted a post earlier. Like choosing to be in a relationship is the hardest thing you can do because it's going to cause those things on the inside of you to surface that you don't want to surface. But the reason God allows those to surface is because he wants you to grow through them. He doesn't want that to be a part of your life for the rest of your life. He wants you to be able to go, oh, okay, I got that. I've got this issue. Hey, babe, will you help me with this? Here's what, even for me, like if I get elevated, here's how I'd like for you to respond to me. And if you respond to me, I'm a big teddy bear. I'm the biggest teddy bear in the world. I'm so soft. Now I can flip the switch, but I've always said, and I even told that one relationship I was talking about, like if I ever get elevated and you approach me this way and talk to me, babe, I love you very much. I don't know what's wrong, but I love you. How can I help? You just need me to listen. Like you have that conversation with me and I'm butter. Rob, I'll melt in your hands. It's understanding for me, like even in this season of being single, it's okay. I know exactly what my ideal partner looks like. I know because I am working on me becoming the ideal partner as well. And one thing I found is the more that I work on me, the people that I attract in my life, pretty amazing people who have done the work as well. Now, dude, I'm like, if you're single guys out there, and you're looking for a girl and she doesn't have a therapist, I just say you need not apply. Like I'm not looking for you. If you haven't been through therapy or you don't have a therapist, I don't want to have a relationship with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the non-negotiable. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Unprocessed wounds, you don't want to be experiencing those in another relationship. So
yep.
If you do if you were speaking to somebody who's going through a similar process like that in their lives, the moment where they're going through it, I know there are. I work with men all the time who go through this process of separation and divorce. What can you say to them that you've learned from your own experience there?
Make sure the guys, I talk a lot about 3 spheres of influence: community, circle, and corner. Your corner is that small group of guys. I have a text thread with some amazing human beings on that. Make sure that those guys know what's going on in your life. I have a real good pastor friend of mine, and I heard him say this about 15 years ago. He said, "You're only as sick as your secrets." You're only as sick as your secrets. Like, you better have 1 or 2 guys in your life that know everything about you. When I left, it was March the 15th of last year, the 13th. March the 13th, I think, was the 12th or 13th was the Friday. And mediation, and we got everything agreed on. Monday, my divorce was going to be final. I'll never forget walking out of the attorney's office, and we've been separated for 2 years. I thought it was going to be like, okay, great, man, let's go on. Let's do what God's called me to do. Let's get this stuff done. And what happened was it floored me. And I picked the phone up and I called my best friend, Jeff, in Calabasas, right outside of LA. And I said, dude, I got it. Like the mediating attorney came in with me and my attorney. She asked me what happened. I just started crying. Like, I'm telling her the story and I'm just bawling. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. I didn't know this was going to happen. She's like, it's no problem. But I mean, it hit me hard. So I picked the phone up. I called Jeff. Jeff said, fly to Calabasas. I'm sending you a ticket. Would you come hang out with me? So I flew to Calabasas. I spent 9 days with Jeff and his family at their home. I have my own suite at their house. And we sat at the pool, and Helen, their housekeeper, brought us food, and we just hung out. And I remember the second or third day I started to try to talk about business. Jeff goes, no, he's Persian. No. We no talk no business. We no talk business. He wouldn't let me talk business for a week. It was a week before he let me talk business. So I'd say, man, guys, listen, if you're going through something like that, find the right people to have in your corner or your circle. Circles of 10, 12 people you spend the most time with. Like, who are those people? And I'd ask you this: if you haven't went through a crisis, you're either coming out of one, in one, or about to go into one. That's the world we live in. So if you think you're going to go through a crisis, when you look at the people that are in your life, are they guys? We're speaking predominantly to men. Are the men in your life guys you want in your life if you're going through a crisis? And if they're not, maybe you need to reevaluate your circle and find some new people to do life with.
How do you find those people?
Get in rooms with people that think bigger than you do. Man, just get around amazing people. It's all about the people. It's everything that we do is about relationships. It's always about relationships. I'm on an hour and 57-minute phone call with Vic. I mean, the guy, he just bought a company 3 months ago for $292 million. He owns Christensen Arms, which is the #1 rifle manufacturer in the country. They just won 3 awards on the top 3 gun magazines. They won the best sporting or hunting rifle out there. I mean, this guy's done more in business, dude, than this guy. He's legitimately done more in business than anybody I know, including Grant, including Brand. I mean, all the guys that do business development and stuff, he's done more than all those guys probably combined. And I'm on an hour and 57-minute Zoom call with him today. How much is that worth? You can't put a price. You can't put a price tag on that, dude. You kidding me? Dude, we're just really, really good friends, and we're talking business, and we're doing business together. You cannot put a price tag. I would say this: how do I find those people? This is the main keynote I give everywhere I go. Great leaders want something for people, not from people. Man, be a person that adds value and loves people and takes care of people. And it's not about what they can do for you or what they can offer you. It's about them as a human being. What can I do for Gavin? How can I help him? What can I do for Vic? What can I do for Dr. T? What can I do for these people that I have in my life?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And how is that pattern beginning to change in your life? What the work you've done, especially through the somatic therapy, which I'm incredibly intrigued about myself.
Yeah.
How how is that pattern beginning to break or change in your life right now?
Yeah, I don't get triggered. I rarely get triggered now. I told you I sent an email out. I sent an email out to my ex-wife as well. Same thing. Hey, I couldn't hold space. Here's the process I've gone through. Here's what I learned. And I'm really, really sorry. Like I didn't know how to hold space for you. And the one thing I wanted from you, well, I just wanted you to own when you made a mistake. That's all I wanted. And you couldn't do it. Well, you couldn't do it because I got elevated every time it happened. Like every time it happened, I would get elevated. And I didn't know why. And I literally, it's almost like an addiction. You can't control it because you don't know why you're getting elevated every time. So I think that's the big thing. You know, I even got I've been communicating some with the girl that I dated for a year and a half. I haven't spoken with her in 7 months. It's been since June since we've talked on the phone. But just through the communication, through emails and some of the things the ways we've been communicating, you know, there's been a couple of times she said things to me that 6 months ago would have triggered the shit out of me. Now I'm like, she said something to the effect of, hey, I'm still hurt. I'm still wounded. I don't really want to talk to you right now. Every time I see your name, this is how I feel. It just brings that back. She goes, I don't want you to be upset with me, which I know when she starts talking like that, I know that she's in that healing journey as well. I sense it in her. And for me, I'm not even doing this to have a relationship back with her. I just want to become the best version of me. And I want her to be the best version of her. Like I told her in a voice text the other day, I said, listen, this isn't about me and you getting back together. I said, if you called me or I heard from a friend that you met somebody that you loved them and you were going to get married, I'd be happy for you. Like, would I have, you know, back in the day wanted that to be? Of course I would have. But you know what? I'd be thrilled for you. I would be super happy for you. And so that's one of the biggest differences. You know, and even when she said something to me about not communicating because she just needed space to process, she goes, I don't want you to be upset or hurt. Text her back. I said, Sin, I said, listen, I'm perfectly fine. I completely understand where you're at in your journey. I will definitely give you some space, and I'll wait for you to connect back with me before I connect back with you. And I could not have done that 4 or 5 months ago, 6 months ago. No way in the world I could have done that.
Incredible, man. And well done, because that's not an easy process.
No, it is not. But dude, listen, if you put the right people in your life, guys, if you put the right people in your life, and my therapist, she's not cheap. Now, when I say she's not cheap, she's expensive. Like it's an investment. Like when I say investment to the tune of about $10K a month investment, like it's expensive. It's not cheap. But where I've come from in 90 days, when my 90 days was up, we just re-upped again. She literally just texted me about an hour ago. She goes, hey, are we on this week? Because I'm going to Puerto Rico tomorrow for my mastermind. How about I re-upped again because of the difference it's made in my life? Man, listen, I'm a different man. It's funny because I even got an email from her, not her, but the girl that I dated for a long time. And she goes, she said something to the effect of, I know you want me to see that you're healing. And I just emailed her back and I said, of course I want you to see where I'm at. Of course I do. But my purpose in connecting with you had nothing to do with me. I just wanted to show you what was possible. Like I wanted you to see me and go, wow, he's different. Like he's a different man. And I'm a different man now than I was 60 days ago, 90 days ago, 120 days ago. I'm a different guy since literally in the last year. It's just been a gradual process of learning, like having those aha moments. No, okay, let's do the work. Let's get in here and let's do the work.
Mm-hmm. Why do you think from a personal aspect it's taking you to this point to begin this process of healing?
Well, that's a question I ask all the time. That's the number one question. Why did I not find out about this sooner? Why did I have to be 53 years old to figure this out? Gavin, the only answer, I mean, I've asked my therapist, I've asked some of my best friends. I mean, I've asked God, I'm like, God, why? The only thing I can tell you is the platform that God's given me now and the thousands and thousands of people that I get to speak into their life that listen. I think had it happened before, I would not have been able to make the impact. I think now, being 54 years old and walking through this process, for 30 plus years, and really deep diving into, the world of trauma, and how do you find healing, and how do you set boundaries? And I was in a relationship with somebody that I cared for a lot for about 2.5 months. And I set boundaries. She would not honor the boundaries. And I told her, I said, listen, if these boundaries get broken again, I care for you a lot, but I'm out. And I did. And my therapist was like, she couldn't believe it. She was like, yes. She was like, you have no idea. She goes, the Ken that I met 90 days ago would have never been able to do what you did. And I said, you're right. I would not. Because it would have been like, oh my gosh, well, I'm just going to prove to her I'm worth her keeping my boundaries. I got to prove to her that I'm man enough, or I'm a good enough man for her to love me. And if she loves me, then she won't want to have outside relationships with all these other men she's been intimate with in her past. Like that would have been the thought process before. Now it's like, no, I know my worth. I know who I am. I know what God's called me to do. And these are my boundaries, and I love you. And if you want to operate inside these boundaries, we can have an amazing life together. But if you don't get me wrong. Will it suck? It sucked for a good week or so. But you know what? I'm going to move forward. And I know God has somebody for me. I literally, dude, one of the things of homework I literally have, it's about 8 paragraphs of my ideal partner, of what she looks like. And it is detailed. Lauren wanted me to do hair color and eye color, and I'm like, I don't care. Like, I really don't care. But for me, it's more character. It's the character of who she is as a woman. And the things like going to the gym together in the morning, being able to build what I'm building. I want somebody to stand beside me on my stages. Like, I want somebody that has a passion for people, and I love to serve people. Like, so there's some very clear things that I have. And if that's not, I want a woman who's confident. I want a woman, when we walk in the room together, they go, whoa, I don't even know. They may not even know who we are, but when we walk in a room together, they go, man, I need to get to know those guys. I need to get to know that couple, because you can tell there's such an energy and a presence and an authenticity about a couple when they're at that level, when they walk into a room together. It changes people's lives.
Well, I'm excited for you, Ken.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man.
Not just on your personal life, but also business-wise as well. And the one final question I have is, how is the relationship with your daughters now, having gone through that process of separation and divorce?
Yeah. 3 of them, 2 of them, very, very good. My oldest and my youngest, very good. One of my daughters I haven't spoken to in 1.5 years. Very hard. It's been very hard. There's progress. I text her almost every day, voice text, video text. But there's progress in that. My oldest daughter is married. My oldest daughter is my mini me. My youngest daughter is my oldest daughter's mini me. So they're both just like I am. They're both me. So it's easy for us. And, some of the things it was hard, but just a few months ago, last 4, 5, 6 months, my oldest daughter and I we were going through Starbucks to get her a coffee after we were out shopping at Home Goods and Target and buying stuff for my new house. And she said, Dad, she goes, when you got divorced, I thought it was your fault. She goes, now I know it wasn't. You didn't have a choice. When you're 27, she was 26 at the time. She's just turned 27 in January. When your daughter says something to you like that, you lean into that, because you understand, as her, she'd been married for over 1 year, 1.5 years at that time. She understands. She sees what it is. And I just have to trust that I'm going to handle myself with character and integrity. I'm going to honor their mom. I'm going to honor her. I'm going to honor the fact that, we may have ended after 27 years, but we had some great memories in 27 years. She's an amazing mom. She's an amazing woman. She is an unbelievable coworker and friend. We just got to a space to where we were going in 2 different directions, but that doesn't mean she's not amazing. And, not only did we have some great memories in 27 years, we've got 4 unbelievable daughters that love God with everything that they have. And are there days where that's hard for me with my daughter? You better believe it. Are there days I have to text friends, or I have to text my therapist and go, hey, this is really bothering me today. And they just walk me through and encourage me to get me to the next day. I pick the phone up and I'll shoot her a text. I'll pick the phone up or I'll send her a video text. even though I haven't talked to her. But there's progress. So it looks good.
Mm-hmm. I think the massive lesson in all this, in this whole conversation, is don't do it alone.
No, you can't.
Don't become a lone wolf. Don't let pride and your ego
think about
you back.
Think about this. When a predator is going after sheep, he always tries to identify the one that's wounded, the weakest. And when we're in those situations, emotionally, we're the weakest. He always tries to identify the weakest, and he always tries to isolate them from the rest of the herd. If he can get you isolated and he can find you when you're weak, he's going to destroy you. And I don't care if you're a person of faith or not, that those same principles operate in anyone's life. Like, you better have a group of people around you that love you and care. And the amazing thing for me, I've got a group of people that love me, and they love me not for what I do. They love me not for the impact I make around the world. They love me for me. Like if something happened and I did something stupid tomorrow, they're still going to be in my corner. If I lost all of this today, they're still going to be there for me because they love me. It's not about what I do for people. It's not about my stage. It's not about any of those things. It's about they love kin for kin.
Mm. And that's something to be truly grateful for.
You kidding me?
So, Ken, man, really enjoyed this conversation. And for all of the guys listening to this, if they want to reach out, check out your work, perhaps even join one of your conferences one of the days, as I said to you, I'll stick that on my bucket list someday.
Come on, man.
Where can they find you? Reach out and
at Ken Joslin, at KenJoslin. Super easy.
Yes. Excellent, man. Yep. And I'll pop that link below. And thank you again, Ken, for this conversation, for your insights, information, and inspiration. So, as I said, very excited for you going forward, personally, business-wise, and everything else. And I look forward to witnessing your growth on social media and everything else, man. So
appreciate it. You got to come to the States and hang out, dude.
Yes, that's, as I said, it's on my bucket list, man. I'm writing it down there.
Come on, man.
And as always, you're welcome to Ireland as well someday.
Oh, I would love to come, dude. Yeah. I would probably drink too much beer if I came over there.
Well, you're doing it right then, so yeah. Here's the place to do that. Yeah, good stuff, man.
Yeah.
Thank you again.
You're welcome, my friend. Thank you very much.